Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
The meeting will come to order. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Next item is celebrating success. Who's going to kick this off? Rick.
Good evening. I hope I don't monopolize too much of the time tonight, but we do have three well-deserving recipients of Celebrating Success. First, I'd like to recognize John Winslow. Come on up. All right, John's a new lake ranger with us this spring, but he has a long history of serving the public. On July the 2nd, in 98-degree weather, Ranger John Winslow was returning to the marina after patrolling Loch Lomond when a gentleman flagged him down. The gentleman indicated that his wife was experiencing heat-related issues and feeling faint. John explained that he was a recently retired firefighter and paramedic and asked permission to assist. Permission was granted. John determined that the lady's pulse was normal and she passed a comprehension test. Upon arrival at the marina, John obtained water for her to drink and to cool her body temperature. Her condition soon improved and she declined further medical attention. This is what is expected of any POA employee. But where John went a little further is that he spoke to the lady and gentleman's daughter on the phone, and she came to assist her parents. John awaited until she arrived, and while waiting, he moved their car closer, left the AC running so it would be cool when she entered, and then carried the couple's gear to the car for them. He then assisted the lady back to the car. We therefore want to recognize John Winslow with a Celebrating Success Award for his quick and thorough response to a member in need. Thanks, John. Good to see you. Okay, second, also a new lake ranger this year, is Carl Schmidt. On July 24th, Carl was on his way to work at about 1:30 in the afternoon in his personal car when he spotted an elderly woman disoriented walking on Forest Hills Boulevard, and if you can remember, 100-degree weather. Carl stopped and determined that she didn't know where she was, and she was very hot due to the excessive heat. Carl offered her water and a seat in his car to cool off. At that point, it was determined that she was a bit disoriented, as I am right now, and and he returned her to her place of residence. And we feel like that his quick action he was still in his training. And the last thing that he was told on Friday was, keep your head on a swivel, because you never know when you're going to be needed. And boy, it was like 2 days later that this happened. And we feel like that his quick response really helped prevent a tragedy. And so we want to thank him for that with a Celebrating Success Award.
Thank you. It's very nice of you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Carl.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, and lastly but not leastly is Nelson Brown. On August 2nd at 5:50 in the evening, Ranger Nelson Brown observed a minivan on fire in a ditch off Kingsland Road. He also saw two Bella Vista Police Department officers attempting to remove an occupant from the burning vehicle. It was evident that the occupant was resisting being extracted from the vehicle, and once they did finally get him out, it was a very smoky situation, and the officers were obviously taken by the smoke that they were inhaling, and one of the gentlemen were sitting next to the side of the road. Nelson, quick to action, grabbed the officer and pulled him to safety on the opposite side of the road, just as the tires on the vehicle started to explode, and we feel like the officers were taken to the ER and both treated and released. But we feel like his quick action, again, prevented a possible tragedy, and we appreciate his hard work for that.
Thank you very much.
All right. Oh, I'm sorry. Here's your award. I was trying. And obviously Nelson is the man for carrying somebody to the opposite side of the road.
Always enjoy that part of the meeting. There we go. The lights work. The lights work. The next step is the shock collar, so we'll get trained quickly. Next up is the approval of the minutes from July 28th, last month's regular season. Do I hear a motion to approve those minutes? Second? Second. Is there any discussion or corrections? Sandy?
There was one spot, and I don't know if it got added, but,
Jessica
did.
got it, Jessica was able to
she
fix
got
it.
the second one. Turn your mic on.
The second correction, did you get the second correction? The first correction was that you abstained.
Right, but I believe when that was added, then the comment about that the motion passed was removed. So now I don't believe that it says that it was passed.
Okay, do I hear a motion to add the
No,
wording?
that was the original one.
Oh, gotcha.
Add the wording that the motion passed
They
with two
called the motion
abstaining,
to approve,
7-0.
but it doesn't say that
Approve
it
as
was
amended.
approved.
Approved as amended. So second on that? Second by Mike. All in favor of amending to say that? Jan?
Sandy, you're right. You're right.
It should say passed.
You're right.
I think she approved as well.
Okay,
9-0.
is approved. All in favor of approval of the minutes as amended? As amended? Jan?
Trying.
There we go. Okay. Next up, the August 18th, just recently, a week ago, work session meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve those minutes? Mike, second on that? Jackie? Any additions or corrections on those? All those in favor of approving as written? There we go. Jan, we can see you now. There she is. Okay, next up, we have the Joint Advisory Committee reports. First on the agenda is Lakes.
I have the Lakes report here. Below are highlights for the August Lakes JAC meeting. Lake Ann sinkhole filled with intrusion points to be filled the week of August 10th, spillway work still needs to be done, and we'll do our best to avoid prime time boating season when repairs are done, awaiting bids and cost estimates. Lake Avalon will be drawn down November 14th and will be allowed to refill March 6th. A letter sent to homeowners about this. Work on docks, dams, and swimming areas will be completed during the drawdown. Proposed new swim regulations were discussed and finalized. The Lakes JEC voted unanimously to approve the motion to put the new regulation in place beginning in January 23. The new regulation reads, quote, swimmers are encouraged to stay in no wake zones. Wake zones can be hazardous for swimming, which includes swimming close to a moored or floating watercraft or a floating device near a moored floating watercraft. Swimming and other activities in a wake zone where watercraft are allowed to travel at speed is inherently dangerous. Such activity is recommended to take place in no-wake zones of the lakes. No-wake zones include areas 100 feet from the shoreline, plus certain designated lakes and coves. This recommendation does not apply to water skiers, wake surfers, or those towed behind a watercraft on a tube or other towable equipment. And that's the report for the Lakes Committee.
Good. Next up is the Recreation Committee. Reporting for them is Deborah Lukács.
Lukács.
This
Thank
is
you.
Deborah's, she's the new chairman of
Yes.
the JAC, so this is her first report.
Yes, it is. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. From Branchwood, the disc golf course is hosting the Drop the Gloves Cup, a 2-round professional disc golf association sanctioned tournament this Saturday at 8:30 a.m. I'd recommend going out and watching it. It's pretty fun. And also equally exciting, if not more so, the Branchwood Disc Golf Course has been rated number 5 in the state out of 163 disc golf courses here.
Ooh.
The hatchery ponds are coming along very nicely out at Loch Lomond. Tyree Park was extremely busy at the boat launch. Items for future consideration would be to repurpose the shuffleboard court area, add a fish cleaning station, and perhaps kayak storage. Over at Medfield, good progress is being made on the pickleball courts. Reardon, a new bench was added with an awning, and it was installed next to tennis courts 5 and 6. Over at the shooting range, a Google search on the gun range does not list the correct hours. However, this will be addressed by the staff. And finally, for the trails and greenway, it has been recommended that speed bumps be rebuilt and increased in number in the areas where the greenway crosses over the park's access road. Under new business, the committee made the following recommendations in ranked order for the 2023 capital budget. Number 1, they recommend updating Kingsdale Pool House. Number 2, update Metfield Pool House. Number 3, replace the Reardon Playground. Number 4, create at Tanyard Creek overflow lot, create access to the trail. Number 5, a bike and skills park at the Loch Lomond Recreation Complex. Number 6, indoor tennis courts at Kingsdale. 7, installing a playground at Blowing Springs. And number 8, installing a souvenir and bicycle support container at Blowing Springs. We're looking for a new committee member, and we are recommending that Brian Michelson fill the seat vacated by Janet, and we're asking for your support on that tonight. The committee is going to start reviewing Granton Park as a new amenity, so we will add that monthly. And then finally, under staff reports, Tom conducted our annual committee training. Rick informed us that he's seeking city variance for the Lake Windsor dock installation and that all the lake dams have been sprayed to prevent wooded vegetation. John informed us that the trap and ski numbers were lower this period versus last year, but due to the hot weather. However, the pistol range is showing a 20% increase. Joan informed us that the Kingsdale pools will remain open until mid-September, pending weather conditions. And finally, Judy advised us that the Bella Vista magazine is out for print. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Next is the Golf JAC. Ruth Hatcher, the chair of that.
Okay, the Golf Advisory met on Wednesday, August 10th, and may I remind you how hot it was in the month of July and early August. I'll repeat that several times. Key themes: maintenance spoke on the Red Tea project at Highlands starting August 22nd on holes 1, 3, 4, and 8. It's going to take a few weeks to complete that project. Rain was helpful for Bermuda grass areas. However, he's very short-staffed and Bermuda grows quickly. Challenges to keep up with the mowing. So if it grows, you mow. Reed Holly Country Club spoke on damage to the number 16 green due to the fungus called furry rings on the green. Repairs were made in September after aerification. Doing it during the hot time just bakes them. Looking into possible adding fertilizer into sand buckets next year. They're going to do a pilot program on that. Thanks to Keith and staff for keeping the courses in great shape due to the floods in spring and drought in the summer this year. It's been a uphill battle for him. Golf operations, Daryl Muldoon. May I remind you how hot it was in July? Extremely hot in July caused few rounds in the afternoon. Mornings were packed, but the afternoons were not. July rounds ended at 21,175, down 199 rounds from last year, which is pretty good for how hot it was. The year-date rounds ended at 93,592, down just 1,186 over last year. Range buckets, 36,306, and that blows my mind every time I read that. July buckets, 7,443, down a few from last year because of the heat. Darryl reported that he needs more staff in the pro shop and cart barns, but along with that, the pro shops are doing very, very well with merchandise. The Bella Vista Country Club course rating is back, but it's being reviewed at this time, so it is not available at this time. Tournaments, men's club tournament was held last weekend with the numbers up in all categories, which is very good. AGA tournament next week. The junior golfers will be here 12 to 18. They're pretty darn good. They're not only Arkansas, they're from the area. They're from several states, etc. We do need a few volunteers to fill that out, especially on Labor Day. General Management, Tom Judson, committee training was given to new members and the rest of the committee. Explanation of the cancellation of the APT, WAPT tournament was given. Old business, we finalized recommendations of our budget, which was the same as we had last month we talked about, and we turned it into the board as is. New facility reports were drafted by Jeff Hendren and Mike Houston, along with Daryl Muldoon, to be used. We felt we were getting too much into the weeds. We were reporting stuff that really wasn't necessary. And so we went from a golfer perspective of what they're seeing and how they're feeling about their experience. And we think it's going to be more available and more important to the committee. Course assignments were made at the same time, and we juggled them all around. So everybody's got new course assignments. Next meeting will be Wednesday, September 14th at 4 o'clock here in the boardroom. Questions?
Thank you, Ruth.
Did I tell you how hot it was during the month of July? It was very hot. Trust me.
I think we kind of noticed
Oh, you
that.
noticed that too? Okay.
Yeah.
Let me turn this off for you, shall I?
Amazing we got the golfing rounds in that we did. So next up is the financial reports. Stacy.
Yeah, can you hear me? Am I on? All right. So you heard about all the committees and everything going on. The financials kind of go right along with it. It was another great month, July was. So let's look at July 1st. First question you're going to ask me is, wow, why did we do worse this year than last? Well, reminder, as you're looking at July numbers, you had the $2 million that came in last year in July. So that has skewed the numbers a little bit. If you take out that $2 million, we are actually better this year over last year. And of course, better than budget. Year to date, just really having a solid year. You can see our revenues at 22, budget's at 19, compared to last year 21. Better than last year, better than budget, still just really having a great year overall. I won't go through every number, but as you look at the slides, if you have questions, feel free to reach out. So let's talk a little bit about the POA. POA had a great month in July. So some of the areas that were over budget, you can see lot sales, Doug and his sales are just going great, 83,000 over. Our food sales are all up, assessments are up by 29, transfer fees are up by 18. Those were down the first part of the year, so it's good to see them coming back. Tiny cabin and RV parks are up, golf is up, like you just heard him talking about. Some of the areas down, golf membership green fees is down, and the RV park guest rental is down, and that's just consistent with some of the stuff they have going on. Year-to-date variances to budget, food and beverage, you can see is all green, all their areas. Golf is up, golf cart rentals is up, guest green fees is up, merchandise is really up. Annual green fees are up, so golf is just really they've come back and are having a good year. Income on property, Doug's way up on his 336, lot resales of 508. Transfer fees are still down by 183, so we probably budgeted a little high there, but we'll see what the rest of the year does. And assessments are up by 152. So again, just a really good, you can see by the numbers in the chart on the right, having an outstanding year again. Some key performance metrics. July expenses, cost of goods sold were worse than budget by 53. Same story is, restaurants are up, food's gonna be up, all of our expenses are up, cost of goods is up. Utilities were worse than budget by 37, fuel and oil is up, and our chemical supplies were better than budget, but I caution you that that's probably timing. EBITDA for July, we actually had a negative EBITDA of $281,000 compared to a budget of $364 and last year of $181. Again, I think a lot of that is contributed, what I can see it being contributed to is the increase in expenses. And then July food and beverage, you can see their numbers there, and all of them are up. Gear Garden's down a little bit. I think with the heat and stuff, they just didn't have as much as expected. And then EBITDA year-to-date to budget, your recreation is at 73, golf's at 200, Scottsdale being the biggest variance, lakes and parks is at 160, and legal's at 513. So those are some of your big areas. And then the charts at the bottom just kind of give you a good picture of kind of what we're doing, actual to budget and to last year. So you can kind of do your comparisons there. Expenses, so no big call outs on expenses. You can kind of see our expenses this year are up compared to last year, and up in some of the areas up for budget as well. And we're just seeing an increase in expenses and the costs of things across the board. Some of the areas better than budget, you got your salaries and benefits, maintenance and repairs, software support, and bad debt. And again, I would caution that a lot of that's probably timing that you'll probably see come in towards the end of the year. Worse than budget, you've got your electric, your fuel and oil, janitorial, credit cards, and propane. So let's talk about water. Water had an outstanding July. They were overall better than budget by $381,000. My understanding is they had sold more water this year, kind of had a record sales for water sales in July. You bought that? All right. Thank you, Sandy. Water sales were better than budget by $230,000. Sandy has a lot of water going on. There you go. New service connections were better than budget by 70, and our water capital buy-in fees are up by 81. So you can just see just the revenue, their gross profit, expenses you would expect to be up because their water and stuff's up, and then of course EBITDA. They just had a great month. Operating expenses were worse than budget by 37. Interest, 7. Meter installations were better than budget by 7. Again, that's timing. Water distribution equipment was worse than budget by 17, and bad debt was worse than budget by 17. And there was a correction in there that caused that. So EBITDA overall was better than budget by $283,000. So water had an outstanding July. So hats off to them. Year to date, again, this is just kind of regurgitation of some of those numbers, but revenue you can see is up. Cost of goods is obviously not meeting budget because of the cost of goods for water. Labor and benefits is positive. Expenses overall they're over budget, and EBITDA is $383,000 better than budget. So, and the others are just charts and stuff that I'll let you look at. Water expenses, no real big call outs there. Interest expense better than budget. Service contracts and credit card processing fees worse than budget. Meter installation supplies, water distribution equipment, fuel and oil, and electric. So consolidated. So I love this chart, so I had to throw it in. So this is kind of a race to the finish. Where are we at right now compared to where we have to be on 12/31? So golf is 69% of their way to the end of their 2022 budget. Recreation 76% of the way there. Food and beverage 67, water 64, and lakes and parks 81. So everybody's having a really good year, and where you would expect them to be coming into the end. So this is your EBITDA by department that you guys like to look at. So you can see each of the departments on there. Year to date, you got general manager's office, food and beverage, and communication and marketing. Clubhouses are below budget, and then all of the others are above budget, and you can kind of see those as you go down through there. So let's talk cash. So this is exciting. So I want you to hone in on we got $11.4 million in the bank. We got 6.6 million POA, 4.3 million water, and 532 in the POA reserves. That is after we paid 1.2 million in July to the intercompany loan. So we are now down to a balance of $1 million that we owe to water. So I would encourage you, as you go through your budget process this year and you decide what you're going to do with capital after you kind of get through that process and your capital and all of this, to go back, and if you're really sitting with a great cash balance at the end of the year, that you pay that off and be done with it. So year to date, this is just another picture. Year to date, you can see in June, we met our commitment. We actually had exceeded our commitment. And in July, we're down to $1 million. So we've made substantial improvement on that loan balance in 2022. And then this is just the one pager that kind of wraps it all up. I think we've talked about everything on there. So unless you guys have questions.
Stacy, help me understand how we're going to look at that, the labor and the salaries compared to budget with the new increase in wages and what we can expect going forward to the next quarter.
So are you talking about looking at actuals, or are you talking about how we're going to budget?
It says that we're better than budget, but that I know that that's somewhat that's not a category we want to be better than budget in, right? We know that we're better than budget because we have a lot of open positions out there. And then we've also approved a raise. And so that number is going to be changing as we look forward to that. And, you know, I always struggle with that as being included in better than, even though I always struggle with that language in general for these presentations.
Right.
But I'm kind of wondering how our efforts here are going to influence that number and how we judge that for our budget cycles for next year too, as we can really try to staff up, because many of these categories would be performing even better if we had the staff to, you know, take them to the next level.
So I think there's a whole bunch of questions in there.
I'm wondering what's that going to look like to us? What was it, 400,000 better than budget right now? You know, what can we expect the next time we look at this report if some of these things start to hit? When does the raise hit? Well, how are our hiring things go?
So the raise kicks in, the first check that they get tomorrow is, no, they already got it, never mind, they got it last time, is when it kicks in. And so you're gonna start seeing that come down, but as you indicated, the majority of the reason why that's better than budget, as in better than budget, not necessarily better than performance, because you'd rather have the staff, is because we continue to struggle, just like everybody else will, is in the area and filling those positions. So it's gonna make it a little bit challenging when we're doing the budget, because when you budget, you wanna budget with 100% staff. That's what your goal is. Unfortunately, in the current labor market, it's just very challenging to reach that goal.
Well, maybe it was just another moment for us to kind of put the push out there that, yes, we do need people to come work at the POA. If you're listening out there, if you know people looking for a job, we definitely have
Absolutely, absolutely.
I would also add, you're going to see probably a pretty significant variance when you start looking at your budgets and looking at the 2023 budget, because you've had these open positions in 2022. We budgeted 100%. We're going to be budgeting for a raise, the cost of living adjustment. So you're going to see some pretty significant variances, I'm guessing, in the salary space on some of the areas. So I'd be prepared for that.
I had a quick question, and you flipped slides too quickly
Okay.
for me. The slide before the cash position, when it had F&B was negative in EBITDA, and I thought that, yeah, here, the food and beverage, is this year to date?
Yes.
So I thought that we were doing very well throughout the year,
So their revenue's really up, but they're struggling with, or we're talking with Tommy, and Tom can jump in here, but I know they're struggling with cost of food, cost of goods, and labor expenses as well, and so they're having a lot of overtime in there that's going to play into that. Cost of food's up. They're trying to manage the restaurant as far as what they're charging on the menu, and so I think there's a lot of pieces that are playing into that.
They just recently updated the menu, and we did some pricing adjustments because of the cost that we're getting hit with, and overtime. We're so thin, we're just, we try and avoid overtime, because it's time and a half, and we're just getting hammered on that. But when you're talking about, I was talking to Tommy the other day, we're probably gonna hit close to $4 million in revenue. So if we can, if we're behind by 49,000, we don't want to be behind, but it's in relation to a $4 million revenue budget, it's pretty darn close. And it's an improvement upon the prior year.
And at this time, you know, to your point and yours about staffing levels, on August 30th, we're having a job fair. And anybody interested in considering anything with the Bella Vista POA is welcome to come and meet the people and ask all the questions you want.
Our goal is to, we've set it up where we can do on-the-spot hiring. And it was mainly to get F&B employees, but we're getting a lot of inquiries for non-F&B. So we're actually like, hey, this is great. We might actually, so we're gonna have other department heads there too. So we're gonna try and fill as many spots as possible.
We are actively seeking employees to help us and keep it going. So, okay.
Is that it? Any other
Any
questions?
other financial questions?
I have a question. I noticed that there's $2.5 million that's been booked for the Reardon. I was kind of curious why we have taken the money already.
Where do you have the? 'Cause
So
we
the
already
money
have-
for Reardon is sitting in a separate investment account at Regions, but it is included in our cash balance of that 11.4, and it is included in the POA balance of the 6.6. Did I answer your question?
So it's sitting at Regions, so we're not paying interest on it yet?
Oh,
Yes, we are making our payments. Our payments started last month on the actual loan itself. We make that payment every month, and we have the money setting in an investment account, drawing minimal interest at Regions.
Okay. Any others? Okay, we'll move on. Nobody signed up to speak in the open forum, so we'll move right on to the next item, Charitable Giving Committee recommendations. Tom?
So in your packet towards the last portion, you'll see that the Charitable Giving Committee met. They meet annually, just for a few meetings, because they solicit the requests from the community. And always remember that this is covered in our policies. It has to be a Bella Vista specific charity. And so the committee met on the 9th, and you'll see the recommendations for the BV Community TV, the foundation, the community concert band, the courtesy van, and so forth. And it comes to the $25,000, which was included in the budget. So they recommended wholeheartedly to grant those donations.
This is a larger number of organizations than we've had in the past. Apparently, they decided to spread the peanut butter a little bit thinner and cover more area.
It was actually I've never heard it phrased that way, but it's
I like
actually an
peanut
effective
butter.
way of describing it. But they actually debated amongst themselves as to should they give it to fewer and give more, or give it to more and give less, and they decided that they wanted to go with more and get a little bit less, and I can't fault them. They really put a lot of effort into it. And looked at all the applications that came in. They voted amongst themselves independently to determine how much they wanted to give. So I really commend the committee for a job well done.
Apparently, they spent quite some time doing this, and we do appreciate the effort they put in on this. So, are there any questions?
I just have a statement. I need to recuse myself from the voting when we get ready to do that because I'm an officer of one of these
Okay,
recipients.
understood. So JB will be recusing from the vote. All those in favor of approving the list as presented? Oh, I need a motion first. Who will make the motion? Jan?
I make a motion approving the charitable giving recommendations from the Charitable Giving Committee for 2022.
Thank you. Is there a second on that? Jerry Barron. Okay, now we can vote. All those in favor of approving signify by saying aye or raising your hand. It is 8-0,
You have to
one
say
abstaining.
Abstain.
Outstanding.
There's you go. We got that abstain. Okay. Next up, we have a nomination for the Recreation Committee. This requires a motion and a vote. Mike?
I make a motion to approve the nomination of Brian Mickelson to serve on the Recreation Committee.
A
And I
second?
second.
Second by JB. Is there any discussion on this? Okay. All in favor of the nomination of Brian Mickelson?
Mickelson.
Mickelson or Michelson? Michael.
Michael.
I checked the meeting to be sure. All those in favor signify by saying aye, raise your hand. That's unanimous, 9-0. Next item on the agenda?
The next item is the proposed changes to policy 7.03, which is the budget, and policy 8.14, which is approval and change of job scope procedures for capital projects. So the Rules and Regulations Committee met, and they were talking about this. They're actually doing a comprehensive review of all the policies, but with the budget cycle just around the corner, we felt that we recommended these changes. Some of the changes for both of them, first of all, were to simplify the language, to make it more readable, but also to use more accounting-specific language, and because it was lacking that, just to make sure that the policy changes are as understandable as possible. These changes are available on our website, so if you wanted to go and look in more detail as to what the changes are, they're available. But the Rules and Regulations Committee recommended these changes at the work session. Sandy, I think it was, made some additional adjustments, and those have been incorporated into what you see tonight.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, and just a reminder, if the board does vote in favor of this, it takes a second vote. So it has to go again through the entire cycle. It has to go through the work session and get voted again at next month, and then it becomes policy.
Takes a while. Okay, is there a
Motion.
motion to adopt policy 7.03 as shown in the packet?
Yeah, David, I'll make a motion to approve the proposed changes to policy 7.03. This is the first of two required readings.
Thank you. And a second on that?
Second.
Jason. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand or saying aye. That's passed, 9-0. Next up is policy 8.14. Need a motion on that?
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed changes to policy 8.14. This is the first of two required readings. And I didn't turn my mic on, and I thought I did. Sorry, Chris. I make the motion to approve the proposed changes to policy 8.14. This is the first of two readings.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Second by Jerry. Is there any discussion on this one? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Raise your hand. 9-0.
I also wanted to comment, for those that are at home and maybe haven't watched board meetings before, and maybe they're saying, well, geez, they went through these policy changes.
Gotcha. We need $1, John.
$1. For those viewing at home, and maybe would think that they went through those, the board went through these very quickly, we encourage you to go onto our website and look at the video for the Rules and Regulations Committee meeting and for the work session. And you'll see that this is a progression, and so by the time it gets to this meeting, it's really been vetted and changed and so forth. So if this is the only meeting that you watch, you might go, well, geez, wow, they really went through those policy changes very quickly, and that's actually not the case. So we encourage you to watch the other meetings.
Point taken. That's a good point. That brings us to the end of things that we need motions to approve, but of grave importance to the membership is a presentation to the community of the draft 5-year strategic plan.
Yeah, so we have two things actually that are talking about future planning that is coming the way of the membership. So on September 7th at Reardon Hall, that's going to be kind of one of the last meetings that's going to be at that building before it gets renovated. At 6 p.m., we're going to be presenting a draft copy of the 5-year strategic plan. The key word there is draft. We encourage the membership to come, attend, provide their input. We're also going to provide a mechanism where the membership can provide input online, because we're going to record that. We're going to live stream it, so you don't have to be in attendance, and you can submit your comments via email so that we get your comments. The second thing that we're doing is, at last month's board meeting, the board approved the extension of the Razorback Greenway through Burksdale South, and we talked about the unused portion of Burksdale South. We're putting together a survey. It'll be an open-ended survey where the community can provide their input as to what we should do. It's a very, the survey is only 2 questions. First question is, are you a member? And if you're not, it actually exits you out of it. And the second one is, give us your input. But before that, there's actually quite a bit of information and a map and so forth. So it's going to give you kind of a background of what's going on behind Casey's with the development of that park and that walking trail and so forth, what's been approved by the board with the extension of the Razorback Greenway, and then focusing in on the land that can be modified. So we wanted to give the membership as much context as possible before they provide the information. Then what our plan is so that you're going to have an open field that you can write in, and then we're going to analyze that information. We're going to narrow it down to the top 10, and then we're going to send it back out and ask the membership to rank those top 10 in order. And so it's going to take a little while, but we're working on it, and we appreciate everybody's input. And the last thing I wanted to comment is, as of just about a half hour ago, the assessment vote is at 25.2%, which is really good. With 40 days left, I am very optimistic that we'll hit the 50% quorum. So we're over halfway there with a lot of days still left.
Tom, thank you so much for putting that together for the Burksdale property. I think for those of us who have been in the community for a while, we recognize how important that piece of property is, and it's really the front yard to Bella Vista. So exciting to include the community in the kind of revitalization of the property and using the greenway as a jumping off point. But it's also another moment to celebrate kind of success in another way tonight. I believe it's Stacy's last meeting with us, and so I just wanted to recognize her for all of her hard work and effort over the past year, and it's been great.
Absolutely.
We will miss you.
No tears.
Thank you. I was hoping to slide through without tears, so you didn't have to do that. But I do appreciate all your support and everything over the last 8 years. It's been a great ride. It's been an interesting 8 years. It's been fun. It's been challenging. I've learned a lot from all of you, and I will take that with me. So I hope to see you around. I'll still be in Bella Vista. I'll still be here, and I'll still be watching. And I'm going to help with the transition. I told Tom I'd do whatever I could to help, so I'll still be around. But I appreciate it, and I appreciate all your support.
Whoever takes Stacy's position has some big shoes to fill in presentations to the board. They have been extremely informative and
Yes.
easy to watch and understand. So
Yeah, don't expect much next month.
don't tell me you're doing it. Oh, boy. Okay. One of the first questions, Tom mentioned the survey that's coming out, and the first question that will probably be asked is, what took you so long? Well, anybody who's been paying attention realizes in the last 5 years, we've had some serious financial challenges. And we are in a position now where we can start to address that property, and we're gonna do it. So that's the first question. We got that one answered. So I will be reading the
David?
announcements.
David. Since we made the announcement today that we're going to start talking about what is going to happen with that property, as people start thinking about it, I think that it's important that they realize or know that that property has to remain for recreational use, that it can't be like turned into a shopping center.
Actually, that, I included that in the title. I said for recreational purposes. So that's a very good point, and I included that because there is still a deed restriction on there, and so putting in a shopping center is not in the cards, but something recreational is. So great point.
Good point. Okay, so as we're just talking, the draft 5-year strategic plan presentation to the community is Wednesday, September 7th at 6 p.m. at Reardon Hall and via live stream. So we probably, when we leave there, we'll rip up the AstroTurf on the way out.
It's not Wrigleyfield.
Excuse me. Rules and Regulations Committee meeting is Thursday, September 8th at 1:30 p.m. in the boardroom at the Country Club, followed immediately by the Board of Directors GM meeting, which is a closed meeting. Recreation JAC meeting Monday, September 12th, 4 p.m. here in the boardroom, and as always, live stream. The work session is Tuesday, September 13th at 9 a.m. in the boardroom and the Country Club. The change in date for the Lakes JAC meeting is Wednesday, September 14th at 2 p.m. in the boardroom at the Country Club and live stream, to be followed by Golf JAC meeting at 4 p.m. in the boardroom. And the Board of Directors regular session will be Thursday, the 22nd at 6 p.m. in the boardroom at the Country Club via live stream. And I should note that the Board of Directors, the work session is Tuesday,
Tuesday.
not the normal Thursday, so let's not show up on the wrong day. With that, we've completed our agenda. Is there anything further? The meeting is adjourned.